Good evening.
Hi.
Good. Carissa and Sarah, you both made it.
Evening. I'm getting a text that the link for the public on board docs is saying the webinar has expired.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Oh, what? It has expired?
You know, this happened to me with my CBOC meeting a few weeks ago. I didn't know webinars had expiration dates, but I learned.
I see that we have attendees from the public in right now, so I'm wondering. Carissa, how many people have said that to you?
Just one. I'm gonna try sending them a link.
Direct them to the website as well.
Okay, thanks, Judson.
Because all those were good to go when it was posted, so I'm not sure what that. And Lynn, if there is a problem with the link on board docs, but not the link on the website, what?
I just tried it, guys. It's if you go to the main page and you're not downloading the agenda and it just says join the meeting, then you click on that and it says it's expired and you need a code.
For which page?
The main, if you just go to the Board of Education meetings page and click on the drop down for November 22nd.
The website.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the website, the SFUSD website?
Yeah. When you do observe meetings and use this Zoom link, that's not working.
Okay, I'm changing that one.
Okay, but there is a webinar passcode on the page. Maybe that would work.
Let's see, folks. Hello, Beth. I see your hands up. Is your hand up regarding the getting into the meeting?
The link. Yeah,
Okay, I'm doing it now.
Okay, so
I was able to access by using like the bigger, longer, like 9-digit code that's listed on the website is correct, and then entering the passcode that's listed, but it's kind of like listed under accessing by phone. But if you just direct link, does that make sense? It doesn't work.
you're talking about the webinar ID, like the 9, or I think it's 9 or 10-digit code rather than.
Yeah, like the direct link didn't work. But then if you just use Zoom and enter the 9-digit code that's shown next to connecting by phone.
Yes.
That worked.
Okay.
If that's helpful, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is there a way to provide a link that works at this point?
It now.
Yeah, she's fixing it at this moment. So if are we okay then?
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Carissa, for letting us know.
Okay, I hope it works now.
So we're waiting on your co-commissioners, Commissioner Malita.
Yeah, we still don't have quorum, so.
We're doing a translation for this committee also, Judson, is that?
Not for today.
Okay.
Good.
Donna, like the creative spelling of your name on your Zoom.
I
Dewan.
can't see it.
It's spelled DWAN.
Where? Oh, you're right. Oh, okay. Let me see if I can change that. I thought for sure you were talking about whenever my name is misspelled, it's my last name. So this is the first time my first
Fixed
name.
it.
Thanks, Judson. That's a first. Bound to happen.
Should we check with the commissioners to make sure they got the link?
Yeah, I'm calling commissioners right now.
Okay.
Is the new link up on the
Yes,
website
I
and on
changed
Board
it. It
Docs?
should be working.
Okay, great, thank you.
If
And
it's not, please let me know.
okay,
Yeah, it looks like several more people joined, so.
Here we go.
If we have a quorum here.
We do. All right, let's go ahead.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
We good? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting for November 22nd. I want to welcome the public. We're here today. Thank you, staff, for joining us and preparing for tonight. We have Commissioner Buggs with us in attendance, and then Chief Kamala Nathan also here tonight to present on the one item that we have. And so tonight we're going to be discussing item number one, which is the status update on the design and delivery of the mission-based school project. Chief Kamala Nathan, do you want to go ahead and
Yes.
introduce the item?
Thank you, Commissioner. We're actually very excited to be before you tonight. This project, which is over 10 years in the making, is we hope and are crossing our fingers about to finally hit its stride. And we wanted to take this opportunity tonight to catch up the Board of Education on the rationale for the project, refresh your memories on kind of the scope and program of the project, as well as show a few shots of the preliminary design and where we're headed with the overall physical concept for the project. At the end of this meeting, we'll talk a little bit about next steps, but fundamentally you can look forward to something of an action-packed early 2022 with respect to the Mission Bay project. And so a number of important decisions will be coming before the full Board of Education for a vote and action. And so today we wanted to just start with a refresher on how the project is, what progress we've been able to make during the pandemic and where we're headed. Tonight I'm joined by Sarah Price, who is our project manager for the Mission Bay project, and Carissa Yee Finley, who has been helping us with both linking to our instructional colleagues and forming kind of a bridge between instruction and the facilities division, as well as really our primary outreach person for this particular project. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to them and look forward to your questions and discussion after.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm gonna share screen now. If you could just let me know as soon as you see it. Is there a slide with a Mission Bay rendering on it?
Great.
Great, okay.
yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dawn. Again, my name is Sarah Price. I am the project manager for the project. The agenda, as Dawn mentioned for today, is a project background, a program vision, project status, a design overview, and next steps. First, a background on the project history. As Carissa will go into further detail, the city continues to grow, and SFUSD must adapt to that growth. The east side of the city has seen the most growth and will continue to see the most growth. The Mission Bay community is a project area of the former redevelopment agency, and the 1998 redevelopment plan set aside a parcel for donation to SFUSD to construct a school for the community. Most of the rest of Mission Bay has been already built out, including over 6,000 units of new housing, 30% of those of which are affordable. We predict the most need to add pre-K through 5th grade seats in the district. And this is especially true in the Soma and Mission Bay and Potrero Hill neighborhoods. In support of the Mission Bay School project, the board in 2017 adopted a resolution which initiated the school planning process. Most of the project funds were approved by the board in the 2016 bond originally. And several weeks ago, the board fully funded the project by increasing the allocation of 2016 bond funds. The campus is projected to open in 2025. And now I'll turn it over to Carissa to talk through enrollment projections and programming.
Thanks, Sarah. So a key part of the story of this school is connected to housing and population growth and the creation of dense residential neighborhoods in formerly lower density or industrial areas. Housing and population growth over the past 2 decades have been concentrated in the areas in and surrounding Mission Bay, as well as Southeast neighborhoods where the largest numbers of SFUSD students already live. The San Francisco Planning Department had used their own methodology when anticipating the impact of new housing on the need for additional community facilities. And they estimate that 11 more elementary schools would be required for the growth expected in the greater Soma planning area alone. SF Planning is currently updating the city's housing element, which guides housing policy in San Francisco, including aligning to a regional housing needs assessment that calls on the city to add over 80,000 new units of housing in the next 10 years. Next slide. So in February 2020, when we last checked, 400 SFUSD students lived in Mission Bay, or the zip code 94158. And as of last week, when we double checked, there are 542 SFUSD students now living in that zip code area. So the need for more seats in this part of the city exceeds that zip code area alone, as noted on the previous slide. And the new student assignment zone system will ultimately determine exact enrollment procedures. We regularly update enrollment projections with the support of our demographic consultants. And one consistent finding has been that affordable standalone housing yields many more SFUSD public school students than other types of new housing, as shown in the chart below. This is true of Mission Bay, where new housing is nearly completed, and the last enrollment forecast report showed that 815 units of standalone affordable housing were home to 320 SFUSD students, resulting in a yield rate of nearly 40%. Compare that to market rate housing, where 3,351 units had yielded 40 SFUSD students. So in a city where we are experiencing declining enrollment in other areas, Mission Bay and its surrounding neighborhoods are one of the few areas of enrollment growth for our district. Next slide. And so residents who enroll in SFUSD may have a different demographic profile than the neighborhood itself. As noted on the previous slide, when it comes to enrolling students into SFUSD from new housing, we see a much higher rate of enrollment from residents of standalone affordable housing than from market rate housing. And this slide illustrates that SFUSD families living in Mission Bay are multilingual and diverse. Next slide. You may have seen the red and green maps of our elementary school attendance areas before, where green shows that the attendance area school per our current student assignment system has more capacity or seats than the students who live within those boundaries. The pink and red shows where there is a capacity deficit, so insufficient seats if everybody attended that school, and white shows where school capacity is about even to the number of students residing in the area. So this is not depicting current patterns of school enrollment. So if students only attended an elementary school in the attendance area where they live, the fact that there are so many red and pink areas next to each other, extending south of Market, will make it difficult to solve for the capacity deficit that we're seeing unless new schools are added, given that proximity is one of 3 values in the board's new student assignment policy, in addition to diversity and predictability. And the blue squares on the map represent where additional SFUSD students are projected due to new housing still to be built. The future mission-based school site is currently located within the Daniel Webster Elementary School attendance area. Webster, which also has a Spanish immersion program, has only 22 general education kindergarten seats in the largest elementary school attendance area, both in geography and number of students residing within that area. When those boundaries were drawn in 2010, housing in Mission Bay and surrounding areas were not as developed. And so on the left-hand side, we describe a hypothetical exercise which points out that the 720 students living within the Webster Elementary School attendance area in 2020 exceed the number of seats at Webster, of which there are 388, leading to being 86% over capacity. Next slide. So I'll now move us away from maps and discuss the programmatic vision for this campus. And so this has been our first opportunity to reimagine an elementary school that brings Vision 2025 and the graduate profile to life from the ground up, and to consider how the way we teach and learn adapts to a changing city and world. These documents were foundational and served as the basis of a collaborative programming effort involving dozens of people in-depth design workshops over the course of 2018 and 2020, including as well as community engagement workshops with facilitation by a team, including Joya Balk and myself, with collaboration from our bridging architects, Gold Evans. And to my knowledge, this is also one of the few schools we have developed with a collaborative design thinking process that did not enter into it with a preconceived notion of what the school's theme or program needed to be. Next slide. So the program resulting from this effort consists of 3 components: pre-K through 5th grade elementary school, professional learning space closely integrated with the school, as well as a linked learning hub for high school students. And now I'll go into a little bit more detail about each. Next slide. And so with a team of instructional leaders, Cohort 5 Assistant Superintendent Dr. Aliva Hughes Gibson has brought key instructional insights and vision in her leadership on the elementary school program. This elementary school really is designed around how we serve each and every student. So universal design for learning, personalized learning, deeper learning, and connection with communities and families are key design principles that influence the design of this space. We also considered how to prepare students for a fast-changing future, considering spaces to develop 21st century skills and the need for connection to the natural world, as well as considering the whole child. Building in flexibility and the ability to adapt for unknowns we haven't yet anticipated were also important. Next slide. When thinking about the Professional Learning Center, we recognize we don't have spaces in the district designed with educator development in mind. The dedicated spaces we use have generally been converted from other purposes. And we know that in order to support the human capital shifts outlined in Vision 2025, we need programs and spaces that better integrate learning and practice, supporting 21st century instructional methods and moving us away from 100% traditional sit and get formats, not just in the delivery of classroom instruction, but also in delivery of professional development. The integration of a professional learning center with the elementary school further establishes the mission-based school as a space for innovation and a place to recenter ourselves around how we can better serve each and every student. Next slide. Our curriculum and instruction division with Nora Hausman as point on this is developing out how those components will integrate together. The school will be an open practice learning community, bringing the graduate profile to life with the explicit mission to demonstrate SFUSD's aspirational practices such as deeper learning, anti-racist practice, personalized instruction, and community-based learning, and extend proven practices district-wide. The Professional Learning Center will support the learning and innovation of educators through an inquiry and action research model. The center will develop educators throughout SFUSD by creating purposeful, equity-centered spaces and processes for learning, collaboration, and reflection with a focus on practice. The school will work closely in support of our Pathway to Teaching, New Coach Network, and TLE programs. Next slide. And so last but not least is the Link Learning Hub. The Link Learning Hub is an intensive one-year advanced bridge into health, biotech, and other STEM-aligned fields with mission-based serving as the ultimate classroom. Conceptually, we looked at models in other communities such as CART in Clovis and the Missouri Innovation Campus, and we asked, why would we not have this in San Francisco for our students, especially with an opportunity to situate it within Mission Bay? We'll build on existing college and career pathways programs, which are mainly in our high schools located in the Southeast. And this will then act as a hub, not as a full-time high school, for deep applied learning. This experience is designed for student agency and student-driven inquiry, real-world impact, and collaboration with professionals in nearby industries. It's also designed for students underrepresented in STEM fields in mind. And so not how can we make this the most exclusive program in town, but how can we encourage entry, provide academic course credits, credit recovery, and college credits, creating an explicit bridge to post-secondary study and employment. In terms of where we are now, Eric Rice, director in the College and Career Pathways Office, is leading efforts to develop the model, engage district and community stakeholders, and ensure we are on track to begin piloting the hub next school year with the first full year cohort scheduled for the following year in 2023-24. There's already been strong enthusiasm and support from local Mission Bay partners and community members, including but not limited to UCSF, the Golden State Warriors, Invite, and Mission Bay Parks. And this year, SFUSD has launched an intensive design process that centers on the work of 11 student ambassadors. This group has worked in design teams with UCSF faculty, and students are going to develop prototypes for what intense deep learning will look like at the hub. So as you can see, we're really excited about what's going to take place at this site. I'll hand it back to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Carissa. Next, we wanted to share the project status and work done to date. In 2019, we went through an extensive programming exercise with stakeholders across SFUSD. This process was what determined the mix of uses for the building, which Carissa just presented to you. Next, we completed schematic design in 2020. Schematic design is the first stage in a design process, and it's when the project program is converted into physical drawings for the space. We also conducted environmental studies and surveys at this time so that the project design could address site issues. Then in 2021, we released the RFQ to select the design build team to complete the project. We're going about this project differently than our normal construction projects due to its size and complexity. We will be selecting what is called a design build entity, which is a team that both completes design and then constructs the building. This is the same method we used to complete the last new school we built, the Willie Brown Middle School. Here is a proposed site plan from the schematic design we completed. As you can see, it's an L-shaped building, and it consists of a 4-story academic wing and then a 2-story support services wing consisting of the kitchen and multi-purpose space. The academic wing will have the elementary school uses on the first 3 floors, and then the linked learning hub on the 4th floor. Much of the site will be occupied by the beautiful green schoolyard, as you can see in the northeast corner. The yard will have a garden, outdoor learning spaces, nature play, as well as our more typical active uses for PE instruction. Here are some renderings of the facility from the schematic design. On the top left, we're looking from Owen Street into the main lobby and the 4-story academic building. The design intent is to use natural colors and lots of windows to allow for natural light throughout. The 2 right renderings are of the elementary school floors. The layout will be very different than our typical elementary schools. In addition to their classrooms, each grade cohort will share what we're calling learning communities, which allow for breakout spaces and individualized learning to align with the universal design for learning model that Carissa mentioned. On the bottom left is a rendering of the Linked Learning Hub lab. As you can see, this is not intended to be a typical science classroom. This will be a space designed to mimic the working environments of the STEM fields on which the curriculum will be based. This building will be the most advanced and innovative we've ever built, including a vast improvement in ventilation over other schools. All spaces in the building will have mechanical ventilation, and filters will be a minimum of MERV 14. It will be the most sustainable, including the first all-electric SFUSD building. It will have the most energy efficient design, including a highly efficient all-electric ventilation and heating system. It will be zero net energy ready with the lowest carbon footprint in our portfolio. It will also be the most water efficient and will capture and filter 100% of stormwater on site, and will be plumbed for using recycled gray water once that's available from the city. And with that, thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Dawn.
Thank you, Sarah and Carissa. I really, I want to end this presentation by really acknowledging the work of the entire project team, and particularly Sarah and Carissa, who in these past 18 months of the pandemic have, through some minor miracle, managed to keep this project on schedule with a real shot of meeting our obligation of opening in August 2025. So really want to emphasize and ask for applause and appreciation for that Herculean effort. It's, I think, really exciting to think about this facility. One of the things that I've really talked about with our instructional colleagues is the importance of thinking about facilities as a lever for accomplishing instructional goals. There is nothing a building can do on its own to make sure that student achievement happens, right? Student achievement is the result of what happens in the classroom, but it's very important that our built environment not detract from or interfere with that effort, and best case scenario, support and create the kind of context that instructors or instructional leaders can make the most of. And that's what we're really hoping to do with this building is when we thought about the concepts, I described it as our next century schoolhouse, right? That we have buildings. I spent the morning at Buena Vista Horace Mann, 100 years old building, and the contrast could not be more clear. I also want to say that this building is not just about the built environment itself, but again, there has been a unique and innovative partnership between the facilities team and our instructional leaders to develop the program for this space. And something that I have said for other projects that is an important relationship that determines the success of a project is that you start out with the program, you identify and build partners, and then you determine what your project is like. And in this instance, we have gone deep with our instructional leaders to think about our instructional program and the vision for this school and the kind of learning community that we want to create. And we've also really worked to cultivate partners, and want to thank and acknowledge the work of Eric Rice in particular as we really begin to go to scale in our efforts to build out partners for the the STEM lab, and also Alexandria, who have made a commitment of a significant donation that we hope will help with the maintenance of this very complex building that we want to commit to, and again, needs to model the future for what our buildings need to look like. We, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, are about to enter into a series of significant decisions and real momentum around this project. So we wanted to talk today about it, and we want to talk again some more in December about what those next steps look like. But high level, just to outline what we're looking at, first, we'd like to approach the Board of Education with an EIR certification. We have been completing an EIR for this project. That EIR certification will likely occur simultaneously with a Title IX. Am I using the right, Sarah, did I just refer to the right title?
Title V.
Title V, sorry, got it mixed up. I knew it was wrong as soon as I said it. Title V finding that talks about the health and safety environment for the school. Then we also have a couple of other items where the sequence is a little TBD, but we really need to also, again, enter into our design build contract. We need to finalize and accept the land transfer from UCSF. And then also there's something called the EdSpec adoption, which is another important administrative requirement that needs to be fulfilled with the Department of State architect. And that will also, that ties into then being able to pursue additional funding from the state at a future date. So those are 5 decisions, milestones. The calendaring is, again, dependent on multiple factors, but right now we anticipate that if there's support from the board to move forward on this schedule, that we could bring that EIR certification in late January. Our hope is that I'm going to extend offerings of briefings to the board in early December to answer any questions and again, gauge the board's support for moving forward on our current calendar. But we did want to begin to frame up these issues, as well as, especially for newer board members, build a shared knowledge base about the project and its history and the goals it's trying to accomplish. So with that, we are happy to take any questions.
Chief, can you explain what an EIR is?
Yes, it's an environmental impact report. Thank you. An environmental impact report is one of several levels of review that a project sponsor, such as ourselves, may undertake to ensure compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. And so when you complete your California Environmental Quality, or I should say, when you kick off a project, you need to determine if your project is either exempt from analysis under CEQA, and then you would grant it something a categorical exemption. Other times, as you do an initial survey of your project's potential impacts on the environment, you can determine that you can pursue something called a mitigated negative declaration, which says there are impacts on the environment as a result of this project, but we've identified mitigations that reduce or eliminate that impact below a level of significance. And then lastly, environmental impact reports for instances when you have potential impacts that were determined to be significant according to different CEQA thresholds. And in this instance, we do think that there will, we conducted an initial study, which is a screen of the project that identifies areas where there might be impact. And most of the areas were either no impact or, again, can be mitigated in a straightforward fashion. We anticipated and found one impact that is significant. And so we need to present to the board our analysis of that impact, and also we'll be asking the board to make a statement of overriding consideration that will be staff's recommendation, and that impact is around air quality. This is what we hope to make the focus of our December Buildings and Grounds Committee presentation on Mission Bay is to talk through that EIR in more detail. And again, as I said, I am also going to offer briefings to all board members in early December.
Thank you, Chief Kamala Nathan. This is exciting. You know, I've been here 3 years, and this is one of the projects that I've been following and just kind of helping move along, and to see it go from where it was from when I first got on the school board to where it is now, it's pretty promising. And so I just, again, like Chief said, want to thank the staff for the work you guys have been doing, especially during the pandemic. I know we've agendized this item once or twice maybe, and just good work overall. I also want to thank the community groups that have been supportive as well, Bruce Ajit and his folks. But I'm also curious to kind of know a little bit more about some of the other details of the project. But before we go there, Judson, can we see if there's any public comment on this item, please?
Absolutely. Yes, please raise your hand if you care to speak to the Mission Bay project update. Seeing 3 so far, Vice President Malinga.
Right. Let's go ahead and just give each individual a minute to speak.
Sure thing. Hello, Beth.
Yeah, hi, this is Beth Kelly. I just wanted to make a quick comment on this related to basically all of the demographic information that is in there. So the presentation says that the district expects quite considerable student growth, where actually the California Department of Finance is projecting a 10% decline in enrollment. And that's for SFUSD already. And also, like a month ago, the Board of Supervisors denied the Stevenson building, which would have been 495 units. And so one, like the demographics on this, so the building might end up being a totally good idea. And the demographics are totally wrong, like disturbingly wrong. And so then that just like calls into question, like, how does this fit into, is there even a 5 or 10 year capital plan? Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, it's a 650 phone number, call-in number. 650-020.
Yes. Hi, Justin, this is Bruce Aggie. Could you hear me?
Oh, yes, Bruce, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Yeah, good evening, commissioners. My name is Bruce Agate. I'm a board member of the South Beach Rincon Mission Bay Neighborhood Association and lead of the Mission Bay Elementary School Community Steering Committee. The community is pleased with the progress being made by SFUSD staff on the project timeline for the construction of the Mission Bay Elementary School and Link Learning Hub targeted for August 2025. This has been such a long journey, and the community appreciates all the efforts as this school is so desperately needed. As you've heard in the presentation, this land is part of the Mission Bay redevelopment plan, and here we are over 20 years later with 90% of the housing designated in the plan already being completed, 6,400 units, and those of us who live here, we see it. 30% of the units are affordable housing managed by Mercy Housing, TNDC, Mission Housing, and CCDC. And almost all the community benefits have already been delivered to support the residents and families. And the last element needed is the school. So I think I only have 1 minute, so I'll cut off my comments there, but we really appreciate your support.
Thank you. Hello, Eric.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, commissioners and fellow district staff. It's Eric Rice, director with the Office of College and Career Readiness. Great to join you this evening. I just have to say, I went into this year just super excited about this project, as many of you know, but it's just gone to the next level, and that's really been based on the work with the student ambassadors and with our partners. So I just wanted to share a little bit that as we are envisioning the building and the space, that we have this exciting parallel process that is about the program and the people. that will take full advantage of this incredible space and this incredible location. The ambassadors have been working recently with UCSF directly to start prototyping for what curriculum and life could look like at the hub. And it's just been so inspiring to see their concepts surfacing in truly a student-centered process that we will envision seeing there. So they're envisioning cancer research with UCSF and doing sports rehabilitation work with the Golden State Warriors who have signed on with us. So it's just super exciting, and we hope that this group will continue to support the momentum moving forward with the facility itself while we're moving the program forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Monica.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Barnett. I'm an aide in Supervisor Matt Haney's office, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of our office and show our support for this project. As you know, this project has been a goal of our city and the school district and the neighborhood for well over 15 years. The most recent census data shows us that Mission Bay has grown more than any other neighborhood in San Francisco by far. Much of that growth was from families, including many in affordable housing developments. We need a school in that neighborhood. The project has been very important, in particular to Supervisor Haney, both during his time on the Board of Education and as a supervisor in District 6. So this school isn't just for this neighborhood, it's for our entire city. And the Linked Learning Hub, which high school students from across the city can participate in, will benefit our educators and students everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Jason. I needed to promote you to panelist in order to speak, so your video will be shown. So you can turn it off if you'd like.
Hi, I'm Jason Truba. I go to Thurgood Marshall Academic High School, and I'm in the 11th grade. And
Jason, are you there?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
So I'm Jason Truba. I go to Thurgood Marshall Academic High School. I am in the 11th grade, and I am part of the student ambassador for this year, working on the design of Mission Bay Linked Learning Hub, because I want to have a school where students can feel like they belong and are involved and can work on stuff they don't usually get to work on in regular SFUSD schools.
Thank you. Hello, Seema.
Hello.
Yes,
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. Hello, good evening. Thank you for sharing all of the updates tonight. My name is Seema Shri. I've lived in the East Cut Trans Bay District neighborhood for nearly 15 years. I'm VP of the Lumina Condominium HOA board and also co-founder of ID8SF, a community volunteer coalition of residents in the Trans Bay neighborhood, including hundreds of Trans Bay District parents and children from both affordable housing and market rate units. Families have been enjoying the recent activation of the Street Soccer USA space in the former temp terminal lot. And we continue to get feedback from parents across the board that not having schools nearby are part of the reason many families have left the area as their kids get older. So I'm here to advocate for a number of busy families in our coalition to have the space that's presented here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Maliga, that concludes public comment.
That was good. Thank you, Jetson.
Sure.
We're going to go ahead and just have a dialogue amongst me and my colleague, Commissioner Bogus. Commissioner, do you have any questions for staff?
I do have a few questions. I think I was curious first, if you could talk a little bit about the instructional costs connected to the services that will be provided at the school and just kind of how we're calculating them. And it just seems like there's a lot of intentional design to support instruction. I guess I'm just trying to wonder what kind of cost analysis has gone into that, about kind of what additional costs would kind of be incorporated into that to utilize some of the additional spaces that are there?
Commissioner, I'm happy to, let me see if I can take a stab at answering that question, and then I think let Carissa complete it. Our project budget does not anticipate or discuss the operational costs in terms of instructional staffing. I think that Eric Rice can probably provide, he actually has a sense of, I think, how much staffing will be required to get the STEM lab operational. But outside of this, we're looking at really a 500 student sized elementary school. And there is not, outside of the costs associated with running that elementary school, we're not creating necessarily so much special programs that need to be staffed, so much as providing different kinds of spaces for our school program to occur in. And so, Carissa, I don't know if you have any other insights or data to share with the commissioner on that.
Thanks. In terms of the planned school capacity, it is designed for 500 students at what we consider kind of a most efficient school size in terms of moving 3 grades of 3 classrooms of younger grades into 2 classrooms of the older 4th and 5th grade, which does seem to operate most efficiently in terms of school sizes in our district, just on student numbers alone. With regards to the Professional Learning Center, that operating budget does still need to be ironed out further, but we are not, we are envisioning this as a space that both is integrated with the elementary school as well as works in support of our existing professional development programs, just with recognition that we really don't have space designed intentionally for those programs.
So there isn't any thought that there would be additional staffing needed for kind of like the breakout spaces that would be kind of made available, or for like the additional size of kind of like the campus and the extra kind of greenery, kind of creating less kind of vision or vantage points for kind of supervision of young people? Or are those things not actually like concerns? I guess I'm just trying to wonder if there's anything kind of in that regard that we should kind of be thinking about or projecting out as we kind of think about our budget deficit and how we kind of bring in a new school.
Absolutely, Commissioner. And so on those points, in terms of the built environment, we have actually looked at what a maintenance budget will look like for this particular schoolyard and the building. And while it escapes me off the top of my head right now, that was an important part of our enthusiasm and appreciation for the Alexandria donation and gift. And so one of the things that we are trying to pioneer for this school is using that gift as the basis of a fundraising effort to engage with other Mission Bay organizations and neighbors, with the hope of kind of adding to that donation and that fundraising, and then using it as basically a kind of the start of a maintenance endowment for this school. This was a practice that I have seen and participated in for the Recreation and Parks Department, where we had philanthropic donors who would, for example, gift custodial services or certain types of enhanced maintenance services for different or targeted maintenance services for certain types of programming. And we're hoping that this particular philanthropic partnership will offset and not entirely cover, but offset the additional impact of not just the greenery, but frankly, again, these new mechanical systems are quite complex and will require a different kind of maintenance program than our standard schools. And so we do hope that there will be a base investment similar to what we equip other elementary schools, but that we hope to be able to use some of this philanthropic funding to offset it. Yeah.
No, I guess that's troubling to me in so much that it makes it feel like we're not going to be capable to maintain the building by ourselves, and kind of like what that means for us long term. And it also, I guess, worries me if we are able to secure funding from other donors outside. What does that mean for the rest of our district? And like having one school that's going to be permanently well taken care of, while other schools potentially like don't have access to the same means to stay clean or to be repaired, kind of creates a really big equity issue for me. And then especially in a world where we have zones where, you know, only certain families who live in certain neighborhoods could potentially have access to kind of this elite program, unique campus situation. And so I think for me, it just kind of creates a lot of red flags for me in terms of like equity, and not really seeing how a school that is this kind of unique and special could be a neighborhood school and not be something that's accessible to people from across the city, kind of given the difference in kind of what is being offered here versus at some of our other school sites. But I have more questions, but I don't know if you wanted to jump in, Vice President Malika.
Definitely, we can go back and forth. Yeah. Staff, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I think, Commissioner, your comments are well received, and I think this is a conversation that the board needs to have within itself. Honestly, I feel like over the past 18 months, the most persistent message I've taken away is the desire to make all of our buildings like this building, right? That we need to upgrade and install mechanical ventilation systems across the district. All of those buildings are going to require, again, a different kind, that is a complete departure from our existing ventilation strategy, which has been to rely very heavily on passive ventilation provided by windows, right? So any building that we are upgrading and going to a place of, again, sustained mechanical ventilation, moving away from and moving towards electrical buildings. And also, as we have, if you're going to have a new school, and also continue to upgrade our other schools, we're going to have to meet code requirements going forward as we make these large modernizations. So the technologies that we're talking about at Mission Bay are not luxury system improvements. They are the requirements of modern buildings. And we are trying to meet those requirements. And that is in stark contrast, as you're noting, to our older buildings and buildings across the district, whether or not wherever they are located. We are just operating with older building stock. So I think that's an important thing to note, that as we think about this pivot overall, and continue, we have green schoolyards, for example, already across the district. Almost all of our elementary schools have one form of a green schoolyard program or another. So I don't think of this, again, I think the main pivot, if there's one that's really different, has to do with like the collaborative spaces to allow for a more collaborative instructional approach and kind of flexible instruction. And that is something that district instructional leadership has been hoping for quite some time, and is also a practice that many instructional leaders are engaged in, but are hampered and constrained by their existing space. So I just frame that up, and I hear what you're saying in terms of the philanthropic partnership. The district has accepted significant capital gifts in the past, also for different schoolyard facilities and projects. I think that for me, we have to start somewhere in terms of cultivating potential philanthropic partnerships, and start with people where they are. But it's my sincere hope that in establishing this model, we will be able to replicate it and extend it to other schools. Because I think it's really important that we, wherever we are, cultivate neighborhood stewardship and neighborhood partners, and that stewardship and investment can take lots of different forms, not just financial.
No, I appreciate that. I think I would just say it's just unrealistic to think that they'll be able to have equal levels of contributions as like the neighborhood of Mission Bay has like across the city as a whole. I just think I think it is good for us to have high standards as we move forward, but I think we have to figure out what we tell people who are in older schools, who feel like they aren't getting their work orders filled, who feel like they don't have enough custodial staff to keep their school clean enough as we develop a new school for a new community, that as the way things are set up right now, they're not allowed to go to school at. And so I think figuring out how we wrestle with that and really what we're going to tell people, that we can't keep our schools clean enough and we have to go outside to find the funds. And hopefully people in your community will make sure your school is clean, because we as a district can't provide that. I think that's what I think is troubling for me. And I think trying to figure out how we as a district address it and whether or not we want to kind of change our position and stance and really commit to having the funds internally to do those things.
Thank you.
Let's see, I got a couple questions. One, I did want to piggyback off this conversation. We are building a new school in the Southeast, and which is Mission Bay. And we have more dollars in the Southeast facilities. And so my push, is to, as we're building this school out, some of the schools that are dilapidated that need a lot of attention, they all reside on that Southeast section. And so if we're going to be positioning ourselves with this conversation in terms of using it as a model, and I would like to see that model trickle throughout the Southeast, right? Schools like Malcolm X, McLaren, Bret Hart, all these schools that need some love as well. On that note, I did have a question around the land transfer with UCSF, and just kind of get an update on how that's looking and where are we at. I know it's been quite some time now, and I don't know where we've landed. Are there any positive updates? Are there any updates that we could hear?
Commissioner, thank you for that question. The land transfer is still in progress, but we are happy to report that we have made substantive progress since where we were 5 months ago and 6 months ago. We are continuing to exchange drafts of the legal agreement that would govern the land transfer. And our next, I think at this point, we are waiting for a next draft from UCSF. We have had, though, like I said, significant progress in addressing some of the more contentious items within the agreement. And right now, just continue to refine legal language with the hopes that we will be able to, again, move the land transfer forward in early winter, early 2022, after EIR certification. We are required by CEQA to ensure that the EIR certification happened before we accept, or I should say before we take title. So the board might be able to authorize the land transfer, but we do have to complete the EIR prior to accepting title for the property.
Okay. Well, what can get in the way of us being able to complete that process?
The thing that I'm most concerned about, Commissioner, is just we've got two large bureaucracies working together, and keeping to timeline is difficult, right? Keeping this, we're both agencies that are, not distracted by the past 18 months of the pandemic. Between UCSF has plenty of its own obstacles and high priority issues that they are also wrestling with. And so I think the important thing is to keep this at the top of everyone's agenda over the next few months. And I think it's also important that just we as an agency continue to signal our commitment and a sense of momentum. And that's why we're very excited to report the EIR is ready. We've selected a design build contractor. We are ready to go. That as soon as we get the EIR certification complete, that the only thing left will be the land transfer. And we hope that momentum again, creates a real sense of urgency and progress that keeps the school at the top of everyone's to-do list.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. I want to jump to a different topic in terms of the community investment. I think Commissioner Bogus touched on this. Instead of having a one school side investment in terms of partnerships, warriors, etc., private philanthropy, it'll be really awesome if we can get those partners to commit in a Southeast plan instead, right? And so that way, it's not just one school, and and all those schools touch that area. And so I would love to just kind of see if we could have that conversation with our partners. And I say this, and I think Eric is still on the call. And I was at Carver Elementary, and they had a STEM program going. And I think they lost it due to SIG funding, is what I'm hearing. But I think if we could build a STEM program throughout all those schools in the Southeast, more families would be willing to, families would be willing to stay in the Southeast, those that are choosing schools outward. So I just want to put that out there, see what the temperature is like, see, what the conversations look like, because that'll be huge. And then the other question I had really was around logistics. And I mean, it might not be a question to be answered soon, but the scaling of this school in terms of the pre-K to 5, right? Are we going grade by grade, or is it going to be, or is that not discussed yet? Are we going full-fledged pre-K to 5th grade on 2025? Like, what does that look like? Or are there talks about when those plans are going to be made?
Commissioner, that's a great question. I'm not aware of a decision made on that point yet, but I would defer to Ms. E. Finley to see if she has any sense of that question, intel.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for the note about kind of district-wide investment, particularly thinking about the pathways that we can support, beginning with elementary school in our Southeast neighborhoods. I know that Eric Rice, who's been thinking about the Link Learning Hub and how it contributes to the full portfolio that we have instead of takes away from, is really critical, and he'd definitely be supportive of that if I can speak for him. In terms of the kind of the operationalizing and thinking about the program implementation for opening, the question of how do we phase in is still part of the planning process, and so the options that you mentioned are definitely things that will be considered, including not just what is the how does this align with the new stone-based student assignment system that's being rolled out around the same time frame, but also what is both the local area need for seats as well as district-wide need for seats.
Yeah, I want to emphasize Ms. E. Finley's point around the outcome of the student assignment system, that the connection between the policy decisions that might be made as a result of student assignment really do have significant implications for the staffing and operational model of this school.
All right, I have a few more questions. Commissioner Burge, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I wanted to just circle back to say if we could get the maintenance costs for the facility, both kind of our costs and like the total operational costs, just so that we have that. And I guess I had a concern around the numbers you're using for the projected demographics for the school. I think just kind of the way that we're framing this is kind of like our school of the future and kind of our shiny new thing. It just feels like it actually would be much more appealing to people who might kind of be of a higher income class to kind of attend than maybe some of our other public schools traditionally are. It might actually kind of have more of a draw for the people who live in that neighborhood who are kind of in those kind of higher end market rate housings to participate in that. And I guess I was just wondering if there was any thought kind of put into that, or if the numbers you have kind of take that into consideration, or you feel like that's not kind of shown through experience with other school sites.
I can try to answer your question, Commissioner, and please let me know if I'm not going down the line that you were originally asking about. But in terms of the enrollment projections for the school and enrollment from kind of the local housing in the area, those are based on historical trends, and so they've been pretty consistent over time. We've been doing this in the district for about 20 years, and there really is kind of a low percentage of student yield from our market rate housing. And part of that, I'm not necessarily in Mission Bay only, but across the city, a lot of our market rate housing does not end up getting occupied by families with young children. So that's, I'm not sure if that's part of what you were wondering about, but I think the other part around expected enrollment, I think that when we as a district think about enrollment and offering choices to families, we always want to be thinking about making sure that the options we provide are going to meet the needs and interests of our families. And so that was definitely a part of the design process in terms of centering around the student and who we thinking about each and every student that we want to serve. So please jump in if you want to kind of point your question. So I can try to answer kind of in a better or kind of closer to what you're asking.
No, I appreciate your answer. I think that's very helpful. I think I'm interested if you could maybe next time just share actually programs that were in high demand and see if there was any difference on kind of who applied to the school and kind of how that impacts it. 'Cause I think going to a zone-based model where it'll be less about who actually gets in and more about who lives in the neighborhood and would be kind of a part of that potential zone having priority, I think would kind of maybe make this a different experience than some of the other ones. But I do hear what you're saying. I think it makes a lot of sense. I guess just from growing up here, just my inclination is when you have something that is new and really appealing, it actually draws a whole different type of people to the experience who want to kind of benefit from kind of being a part of the newness. And I feel like that actually might disadvantage some of our families who maybe can't afford to live in kind of the new Mission Bay housing that is market rate. So I know there's a discrepancy between those people having families and not, but I do wonder and do worry about that a little bit. So hopefully we can maybe see some examples from other schools that added program, if that had any impact.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I got a question for you all.
Commissioner, I just want to add a note that we did promote Eric Rice as a panelist. So to the extent you have questions around the STEM lab, he is able to participate this evening as a panelist.
All right, thank you. Sounds good. Welcome, Eric. Question around the housing developments that's going on right now. I've seen cranes go up down there in Soma and new housing moving. And then also, I haven't been back over there near Candlestick just to kind of see what that looks like lately. Do we know off top the timeline for the developments with the housing that's getting built right now in the San Francisco Giants parking lot? Are we aware of the current timeline it's going to take for them to build that?
Commissioner, I apologize. I can't recollect that off the top of my head, but maybe Ms. Finley can.
I also don't have the exact year in mind, but I believe that the way they were phasing it in, the affordable housing was going to be phased in at the end of the completion of that project. And I think they're starting with some of the other pieces of the development first. But I will check and circle back with you. And that those numbers would not be included in the chart that I had shown in the presentation in terms of enrollment projections.
Yeah, Commissioner, I would say that I know that it is a large project and I believe it has an over 5-year, like a 10-year implementation timeline for the entirety of the project. And I'm getting prompted that it's 1,400 units and 40% affordable.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of know. It'd be good for us to like stay close with that work, and just to figure out like, what the development's going to look like, how many affordable units are going to be offered, how many families are coming in. That way, sorry, that's my fiance coming in the house. That way we could keep track of the number of families that are moving into that community. The second was a kind of like it's a logistical question in regards to, I heard RFQs were going out already. And maybe this is a Lynn thing. She might be able to jump in. Lynn's our attorney for tonight. I'm wondering if we put out RFQs, RFPs for developers who are going to be working on sites, if we could, if it's not already in there, is there an opportunity for us to include, that, developers or whoever is getting contracted are providing internships for our students, in relationship to the buildings that's being built, right? So if we're going to be STEM, it'd be great for our students to be, participating in, the building of this school or whatever have you, right? It would be great to actually have that as a standard ask in our RFQs for all our developers who's working with us. And, and I would be curious to know if that actually exists or if it's something that we can implement moving forward.
It does not exist right now, I think. And so I would also defer to legal counsel about the extent to which that is a requirement that can be worked into the base contract or not. But I think regardless of whether it is contractually required, it is a good conversation for us to be having with different types of partners. And I've certainly spoken to Mr. Rice directly and myself about wanting to connect the architecture and design work that we're doing, even as a facilities division, and host future interns associated with those projects. But I would defer to Ms. Burgo on the ability to include this as a base requirement.
Lynn, did you want to comment?
Only to say that it isn't something I've looked into, and there are a lot of contractual provisions that the state requires in terms of the Department of Industrial Relations and prevailing wages that I can't answer your question off the top of my head, but it's something that we could look into.
All right, that sounds good. I would love to see what that looks like, and if there is an opportunity for us to roll something like that out, I think it's something that would really be beneficial and helpful for our students. I don't have any more questions. Commissioner Bogus, do you have any more questions or comments?
No, I don't have any more. I guess maybe one more comment. I think, yeah, just really excited about the idea of us bringing a new school on, and just really want to figure out how we can do it in a way that makes all the rest of the schools in our district still feel special too. And really just to make sure we're coming into it with really clear eyes around kind of the cost to maintain the building and kind of to use it to its fullest potential. Really kind of viewing it as a model for where we're trying to get all of our schools in a short period of time, hopefully. Yeah, but thank you so much for your presentation and information. And I definitely look forward to hearing more. And I'm not sure if it would be kind of after the design phase, we kind of get more particular information about how things would kind of operate at the school as far as kind of like drop off, pick up, and kind of all those kind of specific details. But I'm just really kind of curious and how we're navigating all those pieces. But thank you so much, and look forward to ongoing conversations.
Yeah, I just want to echo Commissioner Boggs, appreciate the work, Sarah and Carissa. My last question was really around comments and question was, for me, the success of this program, one of the key elements is just the constant communication with our stakeholders, our community folks, our parents, right? Making sure that we are just constantly just talking and asking questions, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job so far, right? Once that link kind of just breaks, I think we are going to, it's going to be hard for us to stay on the pulse of what the community is actually asking from us. So I would encourage us to continue to do that. My question around that though is, are we also in discussion with our labor partners, with UESF and the folks to where are they at in the fold?
Commissioner, I think in terms of, we have not offered a formal briefing on just this project to United Educators. We, again, as we designed the program, had members of United Educators participating in that program design. And that has been an important part, again, of shaping the program for the project. And I believe we have invited lots of different stakeholders to participate in that program design process. We did extend an invitation, but I'm not aware that it was formally taken up by the labor representation itself, right? So we had members, again, participate, but there was not specific representation from United Educators leadership represent as a labor partner seat. So I'm happy to reach out if you would like me to do so, to offer that more focused briefing, as well as to, any other relevant stakeholder.
That'd be great. Thank you, Chief. I think the sooner, well, it sounds like UE and educators are already part of the process, but they're another group, even the administrators, just whoever's involved with the project in general. It sounds like we're going into, planning out how the school year and the school makeup is going to be looking like. And, I want to be able to include those folks as much as possible. I see Kevin's hands up. We can go all night. Me and Kevin got questions.
We got time. Just in that same vein, just want to add, I guess, just talking a little bit about the, if there's any additional conversations that need to be had with like the custodial unions around different cleaning or maintenance practices with the building, or the agreement kind of with an outside group to kind of cover costs of that, and kind of how all those things will kind of play into it. And I guess too, in my costs, like if there's going to be any future maintenance costs related to kind of like the gray water system or things like that, that would be kind of untypical for a school site. Typical. Just I love the idea of knowing any potential costs that we might have. And so if there's any list that you have of things that you worry about, I would just love to see it so I can worry too. But that's my last question. Thank you.
I specialize in lists of things to worry about, so I'm happy to provide you with a detailed. We have spent a fair amount of time actually workshopping this design with both Katie Poyle, the head of our facility services team, and also Kevin Connolly at Buildings and Grounds, because it's important that you involve those teams from the beginning as you begin to, so you can make for a successful project. So we have really taken their feedback to heart. But again, happy to reach out specifically to labor and offer briefings if folks desire.
Okay. All right. I think, okay. All right. Here we go.
And also I just,
Go ahead.
Sorry, one last comment. I just also wanted to again highlight, I really appreciate your point about communication with parents, and also invite Percy Finley to add any points, because she's been our main outreach person on this project.
Thanks. Thanks, Chief Kamalanathan and Commissioner Maliga. I know that's been a big priority for you in your kind of involvement with this project over the years. And so we have held 3 community engagement periods, kind of each, it seems to be each fall. We've conducted workshops, surveys. Last fall was a virtual presentation, and we really centered our in-person design workshops at the Affordable Housing sites and buildings where we do expect the kind of a higher number of SFUSD families to come in to reside. So the Mercy and TNDC buildings. And so, part of that, I think, speaks to what Commissioner Bogus was wondering about in terms of like how are we taking the needs and desires of families who we expect to enroll in the school into account in the design of the schools. And so their feedback was definitely integrated into the design of this process. I will say that right now, the kind of community engagement sometimes feels a little bit, or discussion about the school sometimes feels a little bit hypothetical because, our new student assignment system has yet to be rolled out. So sometimes there were questions of, is this where my student is going to attend? And under the current complete choice-based system, there is no like definite answer. And the school is, slated to open several years from now. So as we move closer to the date, and there's still so many details and ways to get input and communicate and get feedback, we will to do that. And we expect that kind of the excitement as this becomes more of a concrete reality will help bring more and more families in.
Okay, thank you, Carissa. Again, we're going to go ahead and close it down. Commissioner Bogus doesn't have any more questions. I don't have any more questions or comments. I really want to thank you all. Thank you to the public. This has been a 15-year project. And, just really appreciate everyone who's been here, from day one. I also want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I hope this is, I think, the last committee meeting before the Thursday, whatever it is you're going to celebrate, but I hope everyone is, has a great holiday, enjoy time with your friends and your family, and I will see you all when we get back to school session. So thank you, Chief, and have a good evening.
Good night.
Night.
Fall break.
Vice President, Commissioners.
Happy fall break. Bye.